Tonight, hitting back. BC fast-tracks energy projects to combat proposed U.S. tariffs. Too little, too late. The province moves to protect the forest industry. And bad timing. Heating issues close the community centre in Tumbler Ridge. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with the province of BC fast-tracking $20 billion in mineral and energy projects to counter ongoing U.S. tariff threats. On the initial list of 18 projects, 3 are from right here in the Peace region. Now, the projects have already developed business cases, among them North River Millstream's NEBC Connector project. The pipeline will transfer LNG from north of Fort St. John to northwestern Alberta. The company says they received approval on January the 17th and will continue to work in partnership with regulatory authorities and First Nations. In September of last year, the company filed a notice of motion calling on the Energy Canada regulator to authorize use of Crown land. At the time, regulatory delays in establishing a new disturbance cap with the Blueberry River First Nation put the project at risk. The pipeline is one of 3 energy security projects initially approved. Also on the list, 2 wind projects in Fort St. John and Taylor. The Stewart Creek Wind Project, signing a 30-year electricity purchase agreement with BC Hydro in December of last year. It's being built in partnership with the West Moberly First Nations. Initial projections expect to see it operational by 2028, while the Taylor Wind Project is a bid to move from fossil fuels to clean energy. EDF Renewables, working with the Saulteaux First Nation, the project slated to generate power by 2031 was announced last month. And Premier David Eby says the expedited projects are in an effort to diversify the BC economy. Eby anticipating 4 years of continual on and off tariff threats from the United States under the presidency of Donald Trump. The projects will create approximately 8,000 jobs across British Columbia. And the province is addressing a long-standing lumber dispute with the United States. The newly formed BC Softwood Lumber Advisory Council will advise the Minister of Forests, Ravi Palmer. It's made up of leaders in the forestry sector, labor, U.S. relations experts, and government officials. Now, Palmer says the U.S. has imposed unjustified softwood lumber duties on Canada for years. He expects them to double by the year's end. Palmer adds BC will defend forestry workers from unfair duties. However, it may be too late for the Peace region. When Canfor announced closures of its Fort St. John sawmill in 2024, it cited increased U.S. tariffs and regulatory complexities as the main reasons for the shutdown. It resulted in 220 job losses. In a recent interview with CJDC-TV, MLA Jordan Keeley said the NDP government exemplifies damage done to the forest sector long before Trump's threats. The dispute with the U.S. dates back decades, according to the province. It intensified after the softwood lumber agreement expired in 2015. The U.S. began imposing tariffs on Canadian softwood 2 years later. The province says they have worked with the federal government to pursue all avenues with international settlement panels consistently ruling in Canada's favor. They determined BC's forest policies do comply with international agreements. BC Lumber accounts for nearly 10% of wood used to build American homes. Last year, the province exported more than $3.3 billion worth of lumber to the United States. Well, the deep freeze continues to hit the Peace region, and that's led to a 3rd consecutive day of school bus cancellations. Both school districts 59 and 60 once again announcing the all-day cancellations of bus routes. However, once again, schools did remain open. An extreme cold warning was in effect for much of the morning. Environment Canada says temperatures reached -37 with the risk of frostbite developing within minutes. However, temperatures are expected to climb tomorrow. The extreme cold warning has now been canceled. School District 60 taking the cold snap one day at a time, unsure if cancellations will continue. Now, parents are still being asked to monitor school websites and social media channels for updates. We'll have more on the warm-up anticipated for the rest of your week later on in weather. Well, the District of Tumbler Ridge announcing the temporary closure of the town's community center. It'll be closed until Friday as repairs are done to resolve a heating issue. The closure impacting all facilities, including daycare, fitness center, curling rink, and library. It also serves as a warming center for those in need of a place to get out of the freezing cold. And they're now being advised to visit Town Hall. The district apologizing for the inconvenience and thanking the public for their understanding. Residents are being asked to monitor their social media pages and websites for updates. Well, the BC United Party continued to receive tens of thousands of dollars even after last year's provincial election. Political financing reports show the collapsed party collected more than $223,000 in donations after it was suspended. BC United was the official opposition heading into the election, but leader Kevin Falcon suspended its campaign back on August the 28th. Now, Falcon urged supporters to switch their votes to BC Conservative Party. The Elections BC report shows BC United received more than $86,000 after the October election. Almost all of the donations appear to be from automatic bank transfers that occur on the 20th of every month. Former BC United candidate Kevin Action sued the party in small claims court for reimbursement of election expenses. Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith plans to speak with the provinces of BC and Quebec about building more pipelines amid trade tensions with the United States. But some experts say it's not that easy. Tyson Fedor reports.
Alberta ships 4 million barrels of oil to the U.S. daily, but with trade tariffs set to possibly take effect in a month's time, discussions are heating up about finding new markets through Canada.
Oil, gas, electricity, critical minerals, uranium. So every single province benefited from the recognition that the Americans need that.
Premier Danielle Smith wants to review Energy East and Northern Gateway, but Quebec remains opposed to the idea, with its premier saying there is no social acceptability for it.
But situation, the economy and what Mr. Trump is doing may change the situation in the future.
One former TransCanada executive who oversaw Energy East and the failed Keystone XL pipeline believes expanding current infrastructure, such as Enbridge's mainline, is more feasible.
I think it is less plausible to resurrect these big ticket projects that are easy lightning rods for the usual suspects to oppose.
One political watcher believes finding investment from energy companies has proven difficult due to extensive consultation.
There's jurisdictions, there's Indigenous peoples, as we've seen in the past, there's environmental issues, and frankly, I mean, there's just the mechanics of actually building pipelines.
The federal government also believes the threat of tariffs has made Ottawa reevaluate how it proceeds with resource exports.
But I do think in Canada, this has caused some reflection on whether perhaps in some areas we are too dependent on infrastructure in particular that flows only through the United States.
Reflection that could be motivation for companies which could consider investing in future projects.
They're going to need to see and believe that this is a country that is sort of like accepted that in a world that still demands crude oil, Canada is going to participate.
Tyson Fedor, CTV News, Calgary.
Saskatchewan RCMP are investigating after 4 people were found dead on a First Nation east of Regina. A 29-year-old has been arrested after being accused of pointing a gun at people on a nearby First Nation. It's not known if the man arrested is connected to the deaths at the Carry the Kettle Nakota Nation, but police were looking for him as a person of interest after the incident at another First Nation about 40-minute drive away. An increased police presence is expected to continue at both First Nation communities. A measles outbreak in Ontario has now spilled over into Manitoba, with the province reporting 5 cases. Officials say the 5 people all live in the same household in southern Manitoba. They all recently traveled to Ontario. Health officials are warning the public of possible exposure, including at the Winnipeg hospitals. So far, 81 cases have been reported in Ontario during this year. Politicians across Canada are plotting next steps to ward off Donald Trump's looming tariffs. The Prime Minister and Premiers meeting again today virtually, and key cabinet ministers are in Washington. Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney making policy plans public, and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is also talking tough on fentanyl. Michael Couture now to take us through all of today's developments.
At a campaign stop east of Toronto, Doug Ford continued to make U.S. President Donald Trump the central issue of the Ontario election. While Ford praised the federal government's border plan to stave off tariffs, he raised a few issues on a virtual call with the Prime Minister and other premiers this morning.
I've asked the federal government Who is the czar when it comes to drugs overall, especially fentanyl? We have to break down the silos if it becomes to the RCMP or any other police services.
A senior government source tells CTV News work is underway to name the person who will coordinate all the logistics that go with tracking the deadly drug and its precursors. With Trump's trade war still looming, two people who aspire to be prime minister rolled out policy planks today directed at Donald Trump's concerns. Pierre Poilievre says a conservative government will impose life sentences on anyone convicted of trafficking more than 40 milligrams of fentanyl.
This penalty that I propose is proportionate to the crime. If you kill dozens of people, you should go away for life.
While in Windsor, Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney promised to address other irritants with the U.S., like hitting Canada's NATO spending target in 5 years. He also proposed diversifying trade so we're not so reliant on the U.S.
We should become the essential trading partners of countries that share our values, including the UK, the EU, and leaders in Asia.
Donald Trump's vision of rebuilding Gaza involves resettling Palestinians, and the idea has garnered disbelief and outrage around the world. CTV's Joy Melbon on the plans for Gaza that's sending shockwaves around the world.
An emboldened president swearing in his new attorney general.
Very simple. Make America great again.
And he wants to make Gaza great again. Donald Trump says the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip and 2 million Palestinians will be relocated, scrapping decades of Middle East policy.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site.
And he's not ruling out sending the U.S. military in to do it. Trump's proposals seen as preposterous by some lawmakers.
That's insane. I can't think of a place on earth that would welcome American troops less.
Even Republicans weren't sure what to make of it.
It was a surprising development, but I think it's one that we'll applaud.
We'll see what the Arab world says, but, that'd be problematic at many, many levels.
The Arab world was incensed, from Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Egypt, even as Trump, the real estate developer, mused.
I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent.
For the Palestinians who traveled back to Gaza after months of war, this man says, "We will not leave, even if it means death." The White House insisting Trump is simply thinking outside the box.
The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners.
Of those partners, Jordan, one official there called Trump's remarks a declaration of war. Jordan's king will be here in Washington next week. Joy Malbon, CTV News, Washington.
And questions are being raised over Donald Trump's decision to have 2 dams opened in California. Trump says it's an attempt to get water flowing in the fire-ravaged state. On Friday, 2 dams in Central California were opened. They released roughly 2.2 billion gallons of water from reservoirs Trump has claimed the water will flow throughout the state and to Los Angeles. But experts are saying the water will not go to LA and is being completely wasted by being released during the winter season. One expert says the water will not be used or usable for firefighting. It can't be used by farmers since this is not irrigation season. It was being saved for the dry season, which is coming up. Peter Gleich says the unusual discharge of water seems to have been intended for no other reason than to make a political statement. We're learning more from police in Sweden after the worst mass shooting in that country's history. Police say 10 people were killed at a school in central Sweden Tuesday. Police believe the attacker shot himself after the shooting rampage. Swedish authorities are still working to understand the motive behind the attack. The shooting happened at a school for adults, but there were also a number of children's schools on campus. Well, tributes have been pouring in following the death of the Aga Khan. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau offering his condolences over the passing of the spiritual leader.
I believe that civil society is one of the most powerful forces in our time.
Prince Karim Al Husseini was the 49th leader of the world's 15 million Ismaili Muslims. He was made an honorary companion of the Order of Canada in 2005 and an honorary citizen of Canada in 2010. The Aga Khan died yesterday in Lisbon, Portugal at the age of 88. And today, Prince Rahim Al Husseini has been named the new Aga Khan. The 53-year-old was designated as successor in his father's will. Alphabet, the parent company of Google, is lifting its ban on AI being used for developing weapons and surveillance tools. The company is rewriting its guidelines on how it will use AI. It's ditching a section which previously ruled out applications that were, quote, likely to cause harm. The company is defending the change, arguing business and democratic governments need to work together on AI that supports national security. Toyota recalling several popular models over a steering wheel issue that could stop a driver's airbag from deploying during a crash. The recall is for the 2023 Corolla, Corolla Cross, Highlander, and Tacoma. The models were subject to a separate recall back in 2023 over potential incorrect inspections. This latest recall asked drivers to bring in their vehicles even if they were inspected 2 years ago. All right, please do stay tuned. I'll be right back with some weather, but as we head to break, here's a look at today's closing market numbers.